Hi everyone, welcome to the Agosia Arts Studio. It is a super hot, muggy, rainy day, and I have decided to actually do some mid-year studio cleaning, which is something that I don't do very often. But if you're familiar with my studio setup, I keep all of my current projects in these plastic bins on the shelves here. And every once in a while I go and I look at the bins and I look hard and I'm like, well, am I really going to continue on with this project? And so there's this one bin that has been sitting here since last February. So that's about a year and a half now. And I decided that, I put in a lot of work. I had an idea. Part of it worked, part of it didn't. And I'm really not going to go forward with this particular project. So I'm going to take things apart, throw stuff away, put stuff away. But before I do that, I thought I would show you what this project was. So the original idea was to do a set of horned lizard or horny toad figures. And you can see the body shape here is very different from my usual type of thing. It's very wide and flat, which is what horny toads look like. But in the studio, I only have so much room, and this was something that I wanted to do a long-term project with. So I had the idea I would make one body and have interchangeable heads. So this is the part that worked really well. So here's the one body, pros and cons with that. I'm not going to go into it, but I can take off the head and I can put on a different one. So here's one that I never finished because I decided I didn't like the way the heads were coming out. So this worked surprisingly well. And if you are a doll artist, this might be something that you would be interested in. I think this could be utilized for a variety of different kinds of doll bodies and heads, but it works particularly well with the way that I make my bodies and heads. So I'm going to change the camera around and show you the details for this guy. Here we are with our horny toad body and head, and you can see the head turns back and forth, and this is typical body that I make, except it's wide and flat, and it has all the usual joints that I use. And for this particular joint, which is made with a magnet, I am doing the same thing that I would do for one of my head button joints. And when I do that, just to reiterate, what happens is you have your head and then a very, 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 very firmly stuffed upper torso and neck. And you have a button at the top of the head over here, and then a cord that runs through the torso and comes out sort of the middle of the chest or the belly, and then there's another button there to anchor it. So it's a joint that's kind of, for some people they think it's a little bit odd. It's an angled joint, but it does allow the head to move back and forth. And the key is to have a smooth bottom of the head and a smooth area on the neck. So for this particular joint, I did the neck exactly the same way, except one difference, and you can kind of see it here. Underneath that fabric is one of the coin-shaped rare earth magnets, and these are very, very strong. I think actually I put 2 magnets in there. Now, one thing, if you have a head joint and you have the head that's going to be moving back and forth, you're going to have a lot of friction between the bottom of the head and the neck, and so that will eventually wear out the fabric. So you want to make sure this is a very densely woven fabric, not a really loose weave. And I wouldn't do anything really thick either. If this was a stitched button joint, you can deal with that thickness, but for this particular magnetic joint, it doesn't work as well because you don't have that strong magnetic attraction. You could try stacking more than 2 magnets, but then it's just covered with fabric the way I usually do and stitched on firmly. So it's in there, you never see it. And then on the base of the head is made the way that I usually make heads. So this is layers and layers of wool felt, and then it's covered with fabric to create the final color, shape, expression, etc. But when I did the bottom of the head, I put in a large washer, and I actually stitched it in. And let's just go ahead and cut this open so you can see, because I'm not going to use it. I stitched that magnet in place so it doesn't shift around, okay? So it's just a typical washer I got at one of the big box stores, nothing fancy here. If you keep it dry, it's not going to rust, it's not going to degrade or anything like that. So if you are in doubt about what kind of washer to use, you just want to make sure that your magnets stick to it. So you could take your magnets and go to the hardware store and test it on all of those washers. And I wanted to make sure that I had a wide area of attachment so that when I snap that head on, it kind of self-centers, and also there's enough there to hold the two parts in place. And so I did that for all of these heads. I just have that washer stitched on, and of course this fabric is very see-through, but you wouldn't be using something like that. And it works surprisingly well. It's really strong. It's on there. You know, you can shake it and it's not going to move. I wouldn't do this for a child's toy, of course, because both of these things would be choking hazards, and there are a lot of hazards with having magnets. If a child swallows it and then it gets stuck in their intestines, and that's no good. So not for kids' toys, but for display adult-only artworks, absolutely, totally acceptable, and it works really well. I was surprised at how well it works. It's, you know, you can't see from the video, but I'm actually pulling quite hard to get it off. It's also a little bit self-centering, so you can kind of put it off to one side, but it doesn't hold as well. So, you know, it's kind of obvious where it goes, and it works great, and I was very thrilled. I'm sure probably somebody else has figured this out, but for me, when I figured it out, wow, I thought I was a genius. So I hope this is helpful to you, and if anybody knows if anybody else has done something like that, let me know so we can give them the proper credit. So, hope this was helpful and enjoyable, and good luck with your doll making.